everybody? It is Sunday night. I'm feeling alright. Thought I'd make a video. What's the topic? It's horror related. Of course it is because it's me. Uh, First things first, let me get rid of that glare because I should probably get rid of the glare. There we go. If you see a blue glare, it's not a spirit. It's my TV that I have on blue. What is the topic tonight? Well, that's going to be our topic for tonight. The Shining. Haven't you already done a video on this, Justin? Probably. Maybe. I think I've made references that it's my favorite film. And if you didn't know it was my favorite film, well, now you do. That and you've been living under a rock, which I say a lot. This video in particular are my thoughts on The Shining. And aside from telling you that it's an absolute fucking masterpiece of a film, sorry, the blue light was really getting to me. Okay. So, my thoughts on The Shining, why I think it's an absolute masterpiece. But before I get to that, I'm going to give you 3 reasons, believe it or not, 3 things that I don't like about The Shining, followed up by 3 things I love about The Shining, followed by my overall thoughts of the film in general. I will also be making references to the book, with my analysis on that at the end. Can't really see me again. Okay. Little better? I think so. Okay. This glare's fine. It's so unprofessional that you leave twice in between a live video. I never said I was a professional. Do remember that when you tune into my videos. And also, if you're still here for some crazy reason and you've watched more than one of my videos, and you like the fact that I don't edit and that I'm totally live and authentic, do remember to hit subscribe. That way you can be notified anytime I go live. Without further ado, my thoughts on The Shining. Now, for those of you that don't know me, or rather are not all that familiar with me, my favorite film of all time is The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick, starring Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Danny Lloyd. But why? Why is The Shining my favorite film of all time? I can't tell you that because I don't know. Basically, I saw it years ago once, and I was like, hey, this is a really cool film. And then I saw it a second time, and I was like, hey, this is a really good horror film that I've seen once before. And then I just started watching it more and more, and I just became fascinated each time I watched it, to the point where after a while, I couldn't deny that it was my favorite film of all time because I would watch it any freaking time I saw it on. In fact, back in the day when we had basic cable, you couldn't go streaming for movies. You couldn't go looking for them, right? I mean, you kind of could with like Redbox and all that shit, but no one was doing that, right? So anytime it was on, and it was on like Sci-Fi, TNT, TBS, AMC during their Horror Fest during Halloween, HBO, whatever, Showtime, anytime it was on, I would watch it. Now that I'm a grown-ass man and streaming services exist, I can pretty much watch The Shining anytime I want. Only I don't watch it excessively. I'm not that obsessed. I know I have 3 plaques on my wall, but I assure you, that's all I have that's Shining related. Okay, I have the board game too, but that's it. Yeah, that's it. Basically, I watch it every now and then. Like, obviously, if they still have Horror Fest on AMC and they air it, I'll watch it. And I watch it on my birthday. I'll look for it for my birthday and I'll watch it. You know, if Tubi has it pop up again, I'll probably watch it. It's just, to me, it's a beautifully done movie. Is this because I like Stanley Kubrick? No. No, it is not. Don't get that twisted. I love The Shining because it's a beautifully done film. I do not like it because Stanley Kubrick directed it. In fact, I couldn't even get through Doctor Strangelove, which is one of the most boring fucking movies I've ever tried to watch. Eyes Wide Shut, never really got into that. And I've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey 3 times, and I have a little bit of an appreciation for it, but I still just don't. It's boring and derivative to me. So it's not because I like Stanley Kubrick. So let's get that completely out of the way, right? Now that I've enamored you by telling you why I am enamored with The Shining, let us begin with why. What are 3 things that I don't like about the film? There will be spoiler alerts here. Normally, I don't give away spoilers, but last year and a half, I've been like, fuck it. If you haven't seen this movie, you're missing out. That's on you. That's not on me if I spoil it for you. If anything, I'm educating you to go out and watch it. That's the way I look at it. All right, number 1 thing that I don't like about The Shining, the development of the character Wendy Torrance. Now, one thing that people, of course, naturally, by assumption, haven't liked about The Shining is Shelley Duvall's portrayal as this weak, whimsical, weird bat-carrying, frailty example of a wife in The Shining. And for years, that was probably the one thing I could not fucking stand about The Shining, which was her portrayal. Shelley Duvall's portrayal is just weak. It doesn't bring anything to the table. It lacks development. It's crap. But having seen this film multiple upon multiple times, given the fact that Shelley Duvall recently passed last year, and also even before that, the last few years, we found out that there's been footage and it's been documented that Stanley Kubrick treated her like absolute shit during filming. I've since tried to give her character a second chance. And I've realized that her portrayal, her acting, isn't really all that bad. I've come to terms with accepting Shelley Duvall's role as Wendy Torrance in the film. The one thing that I don't like about it, though, is still the fact that we don't get any development, i.e. one trait in particular. She never stands up to Jack, her husband. And as someone who read the book, I can tell you that it's kind of the same way, right? But she's kind of more. She does stand up to Jack in the book a little bit. There's multiple occasions, right? Well, in the movie, we don't get that. There is one instance where we get it, but it's kind of half-assed, right? So throughout the entire film, again, if you've seen The Shining, Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, goes off the deep end, goes crazy, and he tries to kill his wife and son. In every interaction that Jack has with Wendy, it's always Wendy being like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that's fine." And she never has her own say. It's always what Jack wants, right? The one time we get any defense of Wendy defiance against Jack is when Danny's walking into the God, you think as many times as I've seen this, I can tell you what room it is. Actually, I can. Hold on. It is the Colorado room. Yeah, okay. Yes, it's the Colorado room. Okay. Might as well use it while it's there, right? So the Colorado room is where Jack does his typing on the typewriter. So Danny comes in because he has just been assaulted by the woman in 237. And Wendy sees this because her and Wendy and Jack were talking. And Jack, I think, said he had a horrible dream, that he cut him up into a bunch of pieces. And again, Wendy's like, it'll be okay. It's like, really? That's all you have to say to your husband that just told you he had a dream about chopping you and your son into a bunch of pieces? It's going to be okay. Is it, though? It wasn't okay, obviously. But Danny comes in. Wendy goes rushing after him. And immediately, she realizes he's catatonic. He's not going to say anything. She then looks and points the finger at Jack. You did this to him. How could you? You son of a bitch. How could you? How could you? I think that's actually how she sounded too. Anyway, this serves as the only defiance that Wendy has in the movie against her husband. But it's half-assed because when the camera pans to Jack, he's just kind of like in a daze. Also, Wendy completely forgets the fact that she just had a conversation with Jack about how he was having a nightmare, which she heard when she was in the kitchen 8 floors down, 8 rooms down, right? I'm saying I could look again, but we're not going to do that. So this is the only defiance that she has in the film against him, and it's half-assed because she doesn't remember the conversation she had with him 5 minutes prior, and he's kind of like in a daze. After this, never really comes up again, right? Never gets acknowledged, and she's just frail throughout the rest of the film. So I don't like the fact, but the number one reason I don't like the film, most people would cut this out, but I'm not going to because I'm not a fucking professional. The one thing I don't like about The Shining is the lack of defiance in the character of Wendy Torrance. Number 2, this one I've recently discovered that I don't like it, but I get that it has to happen. So I'm going to do a little defending of it, even though I don't like it. Dick Halloran, played by Scatman Crothers. Fun fact, Jack Nicholson tried to make him and Scatman Crothers, they were like really good friends. Jack Nicholson loved the man. And apparently they were in 3 films together. I didn't know that. So, he plays the cook, Dick Halloran. He's the cook of the Overlook. The cook of the Overlook. And basically, he also has The Shining, so he can communicate with Danny. Now, Dick Halloran has to go back to the Overlook because Danny telepathically tells him that he's in trouble. So, Dick Halloran took a shining to him, and basically he's like, I can't let anything happen to this kid. Or his mom, because the dad's a psychopath now, and he's been overtaken by the hotel, which I know all about. So, I'm going to go save him. Before I go any further, I would like to point out that Dick Halloran does not die in the book. This was something that Stanley Kubrick did, which pissed Stephen King off. He hated the fact that Kubrick killed off Dick Halloran, stating that it was kind of pointless and only done to signify and intensify the fact that somebody needed to die in a horror film. I kind of can't argue with that. If Dick Halloran doesn't die in the movie, it's really kind of like, well, hey, this is a film where there's ghosts, but no one really dies in the film, right? I had no issue with this up until recently, the last time I saw the film, which I believe was on my birthday, and last year. And as I'm watching the scenes unfold with Dick Halloran, I realize that we see him in bed, and he's in a hotel. I think it's a hotel. I've always been weirded out by that, like the scene where it shows him he's watching TV, he's watching the news, and he sees there's a portrait of a naked woman above the television and a naked woman behind him. But it's like he can't be staying at a hotel because why would a hotel have naked art behind? You know what I mean? Like it's I've always wondered that. There's a little side thing, but basically when we first see him, he's in the bed, right? Well, not the first time we see him in a long time. So Danny calls to him. We see him. He's in the bed. He's twitching. He knows he has to go back to Colorado, to Sidewinder, Colorado, back to the Overlook to save Danny, right? So we see him in the hotel or wherever he is. Then he calls, I forgot his name. You think I'd remember everyone's freaking name in my favorite film, right? He calls another black man, which is again worth noting because just the way he talks to him, right? And he calls them, what the hell is the guy? Basically, he's a guy that's like snow caps and stuff because he needs a snow cap to go up to the mountains. So the guy goes, "What the hell you want to do that for?" And he goes, "Well, between me and you, they've been a bunch of incompetent assholes." So he's like, "All right, I got you. I got you." So of course, we see him make the phone call. Then we see him in the airport, I think. Then we see him on the plane. And then of course he arrives at the. So we see like there's like 4 scenes, at least maybe 10 minutes tops, right? Then we see him get to the Overlook. He's in there maybe like I would say maybe under 5 minutes before he gets the old axe to the gut from Jack. I don't like this. I don't like the fact. It's not the fact that Dick Halloran gets killed that bothers me. It's the fact that we get all these scenes building up of Dick Halloran and what he's doing just for him to arrive at the Overlook and just get killed immediately. And I only realized that recently. Like, it's like I like his character. He's very enjoyable. And it's just his death. I mean, Stephen King has a point. His death doesn't really need to happen. But in context, the buildup of showing him just for him to get like not even 5 minutes in and get the axe to the gut, to me is just very anticlimactic. It's like, Jesus, you put us through all of that, Stanley Kubrick, just to kill off this beloved character. I'm trying to remember the other guy's name. The third thing that I don't like about The Shining, and this one is like very, very obscure. I imagine if there's other videos out there that tell you the 3 things they don't like about The Shining, nobody has this on their list. The third thing I don't like about The Shining film is the lack of Horace Derwent. You're probably thinking to yourself, I don't ever remember that character's name being mentioned in the film. That's because it's not. But you know who Horace Derwent is. You just don't know it. Great Party, isn't it? That's Horace Derwent. The guy that Wendy sees in the lobby with blood coming like right in the middle of his forehead, and he tips the glass to her. It says Great Party, isn't it? That's supposed to be Horace Derwent. But who is he? Horace Derwent was the proprietor and owner of the Overlook Hotel from the 40s, 50s, and even 60s. He was like a billionaire. He was an inventor. Supposedly, he's got this huge backstory in the book. He also supposedly acquired the Overlook through money illegally because he was friends with gangsters in the mob. And the only cool thing that I'm going to say about the freaking miniseries is the fact that Steven Weber's portrayal of Jack Torrance has him down in the basement going over the scrapbook, which mentions Horace Derwent, which is also in the book. I love this part because it gives us a backstory about one of the ghosts. It gives us backstory on the hotel itself. And it actually shows us a little bit as to how and why Jack loses touch with reality, and the hotel takes it because of his fascination with Horace Derwent. I love that part. But we don't get any of that in the film. We only get a simple, great party, isn't it? Because he would hold these lavish parties. In fact, at one point he sold the hotel, but then he reacquired it just to have his nightly soirees and parties. Uh, it's also implied that Horace Derwent swings both ways, that he likes men and women. And it's also implied that there's a second time that you see Horace Derwent in the film. Again, you just don't know it. We all know the scene, the classic scene that's the iconic what the fuck scene in The Shining, when Wendy's up the stairs and she looks into a room and she sees a guy in a bear suit performing oral sex on another man. Well, that scene's not there ironically. It's not there just to be there for shock value. It's there intentionally because it's in the book. No, there's not a scene of a guy giving another guy oral. But the characters are implied in the book. So the guy in the bear suit, in the movie, it's a bear suit. In the book, it's a dog suit. And the guy in the dog suit is named Roger. And Roger kind of sort of is in a dog suit because he's implied to be Horace Derwent's lapdog. Horace Derwent's like lover on the side. Because you'll there's two conversations that a woman has with Jack, and I think he likes her, and they dance or whatever. Again, totally different from the film. And she mentions the relationship between Horace Derwent and Roger. And basically, in the movie, the second time we supposedly see Horace Derwent, even though it's portrayed by a different character than the guy that's holding up the glass to Wendy and saying "great party," and the guy that's in the suit on the bed getting oral is supposedly Horace Derwent, getting it from Roger. That's supposedly a theory as to who that is. Basically, from what I told you about like the fact that there's no scrapbook in the film The Shining. There was, but Stanley Kubrick took it out because it probably gave too much away about the characters' backstory, the ghost backstories. But I still would have loved a Horace Derwent backstory in the movie because I think it would have, like I said, it would have one given another character backstory that was a ghost, two, history on the hotel itself, which we don't get, and three, it would show us how one of the reasons of Jack's descent into madness because of his fascination with this man during the old Hollywood era of the Overlook. Those are my three things I don't like about The Shining. Everything else, I love. 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 What are three things I do absolutely love about The Shining? Okay, here we go. The number one thing that I love about the film is the aesthetic. The fact, well, I'll just show you. I have it here. When I say aesthetic of The Shining, I am, of course, partially referring to the rug. Because whenever we think The Shining, we think of the rug, right? The rug is just a small piece of the aesthetics that is The Shining. The whole idea of a family running a hotel, just the three of them, running this giant hotel by themselves in the wintertime, up in the boonies, even being told that some people may not want to take such a job because they might get cabin fever. and hack their family to bits. I just love that whole idea of like a family taking care of a hotel during the wintertime, during the closing months, out in the boonies, and we get to see the inner. That's unfortunately that's on the wall. I'm not gonna. I'm not breaking that off to show you, but we get to see the inner windings, the chambers, the rooms of the hotel, which I just love. Whether it's Jack casually walking, all angry, walking into the gold room, whether it's Wendy and Danny going into the maze, which is only in the movie, not in the film, or Danny on his tricycle taking us on a journey throughout the hotel, even going like different floors. So I just love the aesthetic and like this, yeah, the aesthetic is just chef's kiss, right? The second thing I love about the film is it's a ghost story. And I know I've seen these memes. I've seen these memes on Facebook. One of my friends has posted it twice, and I've been so tempted to comment because it goes like, "Oh, men who think that The Shining's a horror film." Bitch, it is a horror film, okay? Don't tell me it's not. You got an axe wielding maniac. That's literally one of the blueprints for a freaking horror film. But I also like that the second thing I like that I love about it is that it's a ghost story in essence, right? It's a very delicate, very thought-provoking ghost story, but you don't really know it. You do, but you don't. That's why I love it. I wish I could explain that better, but like we don't really see a ghost until we see Lloyd the bartender, and even then we don't really know much about Lloyd. We don't know much about him in the book, and we don't know much about him in the film. Literally portrayed the same way too. Then of course we see the woman in 237, who does have a name in the book. It's Lorraine Massey. Spoiler alert. We even get her backstory as to why she's in the tub and why she was trying to seduce Jack and why she hurt Danny. But in the film, we don't. And then, of course, we also get Horace Derwent. And and of course, the twins. The creepiest fucking thing. A lot of people think the creepiest fucking thing of that movie is the twins, but in my opinion, it's Lorraine Massey in 237. Because, dear God, a naked woman. Is there a naked woman in the book, Justin? There is. It's referenced a few times, and it's chilling, yeah. But in the movie, oh my God, I love this film. That's why I'm talking about it. But every time I watch it, that scene still creeps the fuck out of me. Oh my God, every time. And then what sucks is when I have to pause it and I have to go to the bathroom. I think I mentioned this during another video. Could have sworn I did. If not, deja vu, right? Um, but yeah, so I just love the fact that it's a thought-provoking ghost story that a lot of people probably wouldn't interpret it that way, but that's kind of how I see it. Also, I think the aesthetic with the fact that it's a ghost story, I like because I've always like as many times as I watch it, I feel like I'm in the film. There are times where I feel like I'm in the film and I already know that there's not going to be like a jump scare out of a corner. You know what I mean? But you see different rooms and you see different things, and you wonder like, oh, I wonder if there's anything behind those other hotel rooms, which always makes me wonder. Stephen King, if you ever watch this, it's highly unlikely. Create a shining universe. I want to know if there's more ghosts in the other rooms of the Overlook that we don't see. The third thing I like is the fact that it is a slow burn horror film. which kind of relates to the second thing, that it's a ghost story, but it doesn't really, we don't see ghosts popping out of the corners of the rooms. We don't see ghosts. We don't see spirits walking. We see straight up people. Straight up people. We see Lloyd pop up out of nowhere. Oh shit, okay. We see Jack slow descend into madness. We hear Danny tell his mom that there's a crazy woman in 237. Jack goes there, sees a great, nice woman. Yeah, I'm not going to do it, but you get the idea. But basically, everything is a process. It's a slow process. It's a slow burn. It's a slow burn horror film. That's why I love it. Those are just three things that I love about it. I could keep rambling on reasons I love it. Well, why don't you, Justin? No. Or please don't, Justin. Am I aware that The Shining has errors and flaws? Of course I'm aware. You think I'm dumb? You don't think I searched for those on YouTube last summer? Because I did. I also read a theory that somebody thought that the film was based off of Wendy's perception, that Wendy was the one that went crazy secretly. Didn't care for that one. That one's really dumb. But my closing thoughts on why I like The Shining are, tell us, Justin, why is it a masterpiece to you? It was beautifully filmed. Certain shots are just so cool and just so interesting that you wonder, like, oh wow, I wonder how they did. It's so simple. I wonder how they did that. And then I watched the documentary last winter, and because I follow the Shining page about the film on Instagram, and the guy actually showed us a link to a film on Stanley Kubrick's kept up page, in which they dropped a film showing some of the makings of behind some of the scenes, and some of the things are still in that studio, untouched from the film. How crazy is that? Like 40 years later. I love it because all the characters are unique. Obviously, even Shelley Duvall's portrayal of Wendy Torrance, even though I don't like the lack of defiance. I will defend this one. Stephen King never liked, again, I know I've talked about this before, but Stephen King never liked the idea of Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, because he said he already portrays a guy that's crazy right from the beginning when he sits down and talks to Stuart Ullman. I call bullshit. If you think Stephen King, I mean, if you think Jack Nicholson's acting, well, shut up, Justin. Say what you mean slowly. If you think that Jack Torrance is already crazy from the beginning of the film, that's because you don't understand Jack Nicholson as a person or as an actor. Because I have seen other films with Jack Nicholson during that time that I'll actually be analyzing. One of them I will be analyzing later on in another video. But I've seen other films with Jack Nicholson around the same time as The Shining where he still has that same persona a little bit, which shows you that, as you know, as great as an actor as Jack Nicholson is, there's still that thing that makes him him. Like, that's not him being crazy in The Shining. That's Jack Nicholson being Jack Nicholson. So, Stephen King, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. Jack Nicholson is not crazy from the beginning. If anything, if you want to argue anything about his character, it's we don't really see, like, we see his descent to madness is kind of not really a slow process, but we don't really see it progress, you know? We don't see it start from slow and build up. But it doesn't start from crazy. He doesn't go to 0 to 100. But he also doesn't go 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and so forth. Another thing I don't like? Oh, how about that? In conclusion, The Shining, in my opinion, one of the best films ever made. Absolute masterpiece. I love it dearly, as you can tell. And I'll try to refrain from making any more videos on it because I can only talk about it so much, right? I do hope you enjoyed this video. As I always say at the end of every video, if you like this, do give it a like. And if you are subscribed to my page already, please do, as it is much appreciated. And you can find out anytime I go live, you'll be receiving a notification. This has been my thoughts on my favorite film ever, The Shining. Do stay tuned for the next video, in which I will be giving my thoughts and analysis on the film Psycho, which I feel like I've done, but I know I haven't because I only started doing these analysis films recently. So, or maybe I talked about it somewhere. Anyway, that will be my next video, which will be on the movie Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. This has been my thoughts on The Shining. I'm Justin Bienvenue. I'll see you next time.